Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Guest today, Zain Ali. Zain, it's great to meet you. I'm really happy to have you on. And tell us where you're calling in from, and give me a little background on how you got into this. I know we were talking off the air a little bit about you work in the travel and technology space, kind of like that. So tell us where you're calling in from, and a little bit about your background that would got you into this space.
Yeah, for sure. So my wife and I actually work remotely. We're kind of nomading right now. So right now I'm in Ohio. Later today, I fly to LA for that TikTok Shop seller event. Come back. We're here for a few hours, and we drive to New York, take a flight to Europe, and we're in Europe for the summer. So it's a pretty hectic schedule, but it's nice to be in Ohio for a bit. And my parents live here, so just spending some time with them. We got started in e-commerce about 2019 or 2018 for me, 2019 working with my wife on it, and been doing it ever since. Really enjoyed the journey. Kind of got started in college, just like helping a friend with a drop shipping store, learning e-commerce that way. Eventually led to private labeling, which led to building brands from scratch. That's kind of what we're focused on now. We have primarily our brand on TikTok Shop that's really gaining a lot of traction. It's been really exciting for us. Has been like in the travel niche. So that's something that we've really enjoyed, is getting to see a different channel, learning TikTok and seeing all the exciting things that TikTok Shop's coming out with.
Yeah, so it's really cool. TikTok Shop's kind of been like a beast. It's been very mysterious, but very profitable for many people. So I'm curious to hear more about your experience on that. But I just would want to ask quickly, because I actually lived in Kettering, which is right outside of Dayton in Ohio for the past 3 years. I just moved back to New York recently. So whereabouts in Ohio are you? Close to like Columbus or Cincinnati? Or
closer to Cincinnati. So I'm in Mason, Ohio. I actually
nice
here.
Yeah.
I'm actually flying out of Dayton later today. We're kind of in between the CBG and Dayton Airport. But yeah, my dad used to work in Dayton for quite some time, so I'm pretty familiar with that area too.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I quite enjoyed my time out there. I spent a lot of time in Cincinnati just driving. I mean, I was like 45 minutes away, but yeah, Cincinnati is one of my favorite cities I've ever been to, man. It's fun out there. So yeah, it's super cool. So tell me a little bit about your experience. I mean, on TikTok Shop, was that like the impetus of this brand that you're working in? Were you kind of like looking to go that direction right from the get-go, or something that kind of happened organically? Tell me a little bit about your experience, like having success on that store.
Yeah, definitely. It kind of happened because we were noticing like a lot of other brands or people that you see on Twitter or wherever else kind of get you're kind of part of your e-commerce community. We'd having some trouble on Meta. Our ROAS just wasn't as good as we would like it. We were having trouble scaling and like maintaining stability. So my partner was really big on us trying out TikTok Shop. I was a little bit hesitant. Our product's like $60, and like a lot of the stuff that I was seeing on there was on the cheaper end. So I was like, yeah, I don't know about it. But she kind of convinced me because there's a product that she was buying on TikTok Shop that was only on TikTok Shop. It was selling out constantly. So we started up on TikTok Shop like last November, I want to say, and kind of right off the bat, it was doing really well. Just running our meta ads on TikTok Shops. And the reason being, and it's not too surprising, it's like they were doing subsidies for new customers. So it's like new customers were getting it for 20% off. So like our $60 product they're getting for 40 something. So the CPA was better. Surprise. Not too much of a shocker. That got us really interesting because we were able to scale up the spend on TikTok Shop ads, and it was doing pretty well. It was pretty profitable. It was holding stable. And in the past with TikTok ads, like that, you usually have problems with it just like dying all of a sudden, but it's doing pretty well. So we're like, oh, okay, this is a channel that might be working. We kind of just sat on it for like a couple months at a decent ROAS, not a huge scale. And then we started moving into the affiliate kind of structure because we're seeing people doing well with that. And that's really where the magic happened. It's like now 60% of our revenue comes from affiliates, maybe like 40% from ads.
That's awesome. Yeah. What was your like general experience starting with it? I mean, do you find that it's necessary to have like a big following on TikTok in the beginning in order for a TikTok Shop brand or product to be successful, or is it not necessarily the case?
Yeah, it's a good question. Like we started with like barely any followers, with barely any presence. We had tried TikTok, and like it just, we felt that like it wasn't really our demographic. Our product is like kind of geared towards more probably like 35 plus. I mean, we were just thinking like, hey, TikTok is not the best place to focus. We're doing really well on Facebook, primarily a little bit on Instagram. The older audience has kind of shifted there. So we started off with like really no followers. And I think just the most important thing is you just want product market fit. Like don't try and test products on TikTok Shop because because the lead time is so long. You got to hold inventory. So for the people who are trying to drop ship or they're trying to do pre-orders, they can't really do that on TikTok Shop. So we don't recommend it for that. But if you have product market fit, like you're spending, you know, 1,000, 2,000 a day on Meta or whatever it is, and you're doing well there, it'll work on TikTok Shop. And primarily just because right now it's a subsidy. So it's like if your customers can get it 20% cheaper, your CPA should be 20% lower or whatever it is. And you don't really need a following, because if you're running ads, people are just seeing the ad. They don't really even visit your profile. Sometimes you can set it up so it goes, if they try to tap your profile, it just opens up the website. If you're using affiliates, they're posting it on their account. They're not even tagging your profile. They just have the TikTok Shop link in the corner. So people aren't really even seeing your profile. So really you can start with, you know, 100 followers on TikTok and be okay.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And I mean, kind of keep it like within the platform, not having to go from like app to app or app to your browser to the website. I feel like whenever that happens to me, like off of a social media, I'm just like, man, like give me back. Like I'm not done scrolling yet. Like bring me back. So that's pretty cool. I think it's a very new experience, I think, for a lot of people. I think it's a huge like revenue channel that people are going to start taking advantage of more, I think. So it's really interesting. I appreciate the insights about that. And so I guess, and you're saying that they're subsidizing itself, not like grocery store subsidy where like you're getting 20% less because they're doing the sale. They're just subsidizing it themselves through the shop to generate revenue there. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah. What have you noticed? I mean, as far as it seems like your ideal customer for this product was more like kind of like, you know, middle to maybe a slightly older millennial age. Have you found that that's still the case in the people that are buying through TikTok Shop, or have you found that you've actually tapped into a younger demographic selling through TikTok Shop?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. We primarily do the older demographic when we run on Facebook ads, even like a little bit on Instagram ads. We have been getting the younger demographic on TikTok, which kind of I think just goes to show that like you can't really pigeonhole yourself. If it's a good product and there's like different use cases, it's the type of thing that anyone could use. So ours is a travel product and it's kind of geared towards the older generation, but then you also have like solo travelers and could use the product. So it is pretty wide. And when you run on TikTok Shop, maybe different angles will do better. So if you're running the same ads from Meta and like you have angles that are kind of appeal for a younger demographic, or they're shorter videos, or they're more fast paced, you'll see those do better on TikTok. And then obviously the market that converts with that is going to be younger if it's like a snappier video versus on Facebook. We have some ads that, you know, are over a minute long. They can be 1-2 minutes long. And that really works for the older demographic. On TikTok, you know, primarily what we're running is like 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. And I mean, I could see with like a travel product like this is even younger people maybe might not be like completely like engaged in the market as a real consumer yet, but I mean, younger people still travel a lot. I mean, even you're in college, you're doing spring breaks in high school, you're doing spring breaks in colleges. So that makes sense that you would be getting some traction in the younger demographic there, because it may not be, you know, even most of Gen Z. I mean, I'm not even sure most of Gen Z is really can be considered like their own consumer category yet. I mean, I think the 70 something percent of Gen Zs are still living at home with their parents, given the state of everything today. But it's interesting because, but they do still travel, you know, whether it's subsidized through their parents or their families or the school or whatever's happening. So even people that maybe play like on sports teams in colleges and high schools, I mean, they travel all over the place now. I mean, travel leagues are kind of the only ways to get like real eyes on yourself if you want to do something like that from a young age. So yeah, it's really interesting. I could definitely see that. It makes a lot of sense. And so I guess as far as TikTok Shop goes, have you noticed like one thing I hear about TikTok generally and other people's experience on TikTok Shop is like, I mean, you mentioned this a little bit, was just kind of like the fluctuations. Like things seem to like, you know, blast off on TikTok and then it's just dead and nobody can figure out why. The algorithm is like super weird. It's like nobody ever knows when it's going to change or what's going to happen. So have you kind of gone through those fluctuations and had to like make any changes, or is it just kind of like the natural order of doing things on TikTok to be expected?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it is like a newer platform. Like TikTok Shop is very new and so much of it is momentum based. So like when you're doing affiliates, kind of how that works is that we use a bot. It sends out a bunch of messages to affiliates telling them, hey, if you post your product, like we'll send you a free sample of the product, you post it, you add the TikTok Shop link, you will get 20% commission or whatever it is. And then, you know, we send out a bunch of those messages. We get some sample requests from people who are interested. We go through and approve those. Then product ships out to them. It takes like 5 days. Then it takes them, you know, up to 2 weeks to post the video. Then slowly over time, those videos get views. So as you can imagine, when it's organic, it's unstable just from like the very definition of it. It kind of just slowly gain momentum, and then the algo will keep pushing out the video. And if it stops getting like the same, you know, watch time or like to view ratio or whatever the algorithm is using, like the engagement ratio, once it stops getting that, then the video will slowly die off. You'll stop getting views. So by definition, it's like slow, extremely fast, like running you out of stock. And then if you run out of stock, then it dies. Or if the video stops, being able to find like lookalike viewers, and it'll die. So like by definition, affiliate is very unstable. As far as the ads, we've seen a lot better stability this year than we were seeing last year running them. It's harder to get to the same scale as Meta. Like Meta is still king when it comes to paid ads. You can kind of just crank the budget 20% per day, be spending thousands of dollars per day without a problem. With ads on TikTok Shop, it's a little bit more difficult to hit that same kind of scale, but also you have more of a synergistic effect. Like if someone sees our ad and they, tap on the product card, TikTok Shop's like, oh, okay, you're interested in it. Then they'll start seeing the affiliate videos and vice versa. If someone sees our affiliate video, they tap on the product card, they add it to cart, or they just look at it, then they'll start seeing our ads. So like the more you're doing on affiliate revenue, the better your ads are going to do, the better you can scale your ads. It's not, thing is isolated. And I think that's the problem marketers run into a lot of times. They think like, oh man, like I was scaling spend here and it's just like suddenly crashed. Meanwhile, they weren't like scaling their Google ads in proportion, or they weren't doing influencer seeding in proportion, because it's like Meta is very bottom of funnel and they were doing all this top of funnel stuff. And then they let off the gas on the top of funnel stuff because they were just addicted to the ROAS they were getting from Meta. So it's all like an ecosystem. And as long as you are balancing everything correctly, you're not just like scaling to the moon and neglecting other parts of the business, then you get a little bit more stability. And the biggest thing is just not running out of stock. You run out of stock, it'll kill your momentum. You try to get going again, you start running ads again, it just won't do as well. And then people will get frustrated with the platform. But as with all things in momentum, that's just how it works.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. It keeps kind of like doubling down on itself until something happens, whether it's traction with the videos, traction with your affiliates, or traction with I guess just your stock. You just run out of stock, right? It's funny how TikTok, it seems to be more of like sprinting campaigns that just kind of come and go, rather than like the long game of playing the SEO game or doing like meta ads over a longer period. It seems like more of like a slow burn. That's really interesting. And I don't think enough people are really taking advantage of TikTok Shop yet. So I hope like any other entrepreneurs listening here can see like this is a very attainable thing to do. And are you posting a lot of like your own content, or are you mostly doing like more like the affiliate side of things?
So that's something that we're trying to improve on. Like right now we have affiliates doing really well, and kind of a frustrating thing with affiliates, same as with business owners, like you get kind of that shiny object syndrome where it's like you have an affiliate do really well. They might drive 20K in commissions for themselves, and they'll still post a different product instead of posting another video for your product, even after seeing that success. Because you've got like 100 brands in your inbox, they're all offering you a free sample. You're thinking like, oh man, I'm getting a free product to post, plus, this product might do well for me. Mm-hmm. So they're constantly kind of rotating through products. You might get like 3 affiliate videos, you might get 4. Even if they do really well, they might be on to another product. So if you really want that stability and you really want that engine to be driven by you, organic is a great way to do it, because it's like you're posting those organic videos, they do really well, you let them run, you get a bunch of free sales, amazing margins. That way, if they start to die off, then you plug them into your TikTok Shop ads, you put some paid spend behind them, and you keep going, and you decide like the volume of that's being put out in organic content. You decide how much you're spending on ads. You have a little bit more control. So we're trying to get into that now. Basically, we're using Instagram influencers that we were using to make videos there, and just like repurposing that content to TikToks. So saying, hey, we're playing around with TikTok with organic content. You made this video for us. Can we post it on TikTok and tag you, and we'll give you like $100 or something like that. So it's a very efficient way. Like we're just reusing other content, posting on TikTok. Every once in a while, something will go viral that'll get us sales there, and then we can use that in our paid ads. As an approach that's working really well for us. We want to double down on it. We want to get way more influencers. We're trying to systemize it just to be pumping content on TikTok, because some people think you can only post 2 or 3 times a day. We haven't found that. On Instagram, we post like 10 times a day, and one out of those 10 videos will get really good traction. The other 9 won't. And it's the same kind of ratio you see when you're testing ads and meta ads. Like you need to pump out a lot of creatives, and then maybe 5 out of 100 are going to be killers for you. They're trying to do that on TikTok now. We were doing it on Instagram. TikTok's a little bit trickier with TikTok Shop, because if you post a video that, maybe you didn't notice that it said shop on our website or something at the end or something, you'll get a points violation for that, because they don't want you to use TikTok Shop link and then also be promoting your own website. So they'll give you a points violation. Suddenly your organic reach will go down. You're worried about like those points piling up and shutting down your store. So you got to be a little bit more careful, a little bit more deliberate. You want to be careful with the claims you make, what's in the video, because they will give you violations and it will affect your organic reach.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And just for people to know that you don't need to have like a professional setup to be making your own content to be successful on TikTok or on TikTok Shop. Like there's clearly other avenues to be able to operate in that space without necessarily being an expert in content creation or video editing. Like maybe a smaller brand, maybe doesn't have the capital to outsource for every single part of that process. So that's really cool. I really appreciate the insights here. It's not something I get to talk about a lot in depth. And yeah, I really appreciate the insights on this. So any advice you would give to anybody starting out in a brand, or maybe wanting to get into TikTok maybe for the first time, or interested in doing TikTok as kind of like the impetus for their advertising and revenue drive for their brand? What kind of advice would you give to somebody who's interested in getting more into this?
Yeah, no, what I would tell someone that's just starting out is that if you already have assets that you're running on Meta ads or you're running on YouTube ads, whatever it is, just copy paste those over to TikTok Shop. Use the Shopify app or whatever e-commerce platform you use to sync your product from Shopify into TikTok Shop. Very little work done at this point. Like maybe it'll take you an hour or two to register for TikTok Shop, get approved, sync everything over, copy paste those ads, and just try it out. And if you set it at like a $50-$100 a day budget, give it a week, no targeted dating, just let TikTok use your creatives and find your audience. I'm pretty confident that you can get the same CPA or lower, because we're talking 20% subsidies for new customers. Mm-hmm. And then you can kind of decide from there, like, how much resources do I want to dedicate to this channel? If you're finding that it's a pretty low touch approach, like it's really not taking too much work, you're just using assets that you already have and repurposing them, then you can kind of slowly scale up those efforts. Once you get some orders on your product, you can start reaching out to affiliates and really build that out that way. Because I think the biggest thing for some people, they're worried about the TikTok ban, they're worried about this being a shiny object, they're worried about, hey, I'm gonna put all my time over here. Meanwhile, I know Meta is king and I can just double budgets month over month on Meta and crush. I don't have to worry about affiliates and things like that. But there's so much of it that's just cross posting. There's a lot of automation. There's bots out there that can outreach to creators. It's a pretty simple process. It's just like you got to get started. And we're seeing already like people that are on Amazon that are big sellers are seeing those fees start climbing. Amazon's in value extraction mode. They're not really trying to drive growth. They're just trying to make as much money as possible from the sellers that are on there. And then they use like multi-channel fulfillment on TikTok Shop. So it's like they're still fulfilling out their Amazon inventory. They're syncing the products into TikTok Shop. They're listing them there. The SEO is not as good as TikTok Shop or as Amazon, but like maybe they're doing some affiliate or some video creatives from user reviews, and they're starting to get really good traction on TikTok Shop at way better margins than they are on Amazon. So it's definitely, we're seeing that shift where it's like there's one ecosystem right now that's coming out with features every week, is paying like probably millions of dollars of subsidies, if not billions this year, on new customers and acquiring new customers. There's only one platform that's super seller friendly right now, and that's TikTok Shop. So I think it's a mistake to ignore it. I think it's a mistake to not, spend like a couple hours setting it up and seeing how it goes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I really appreciate that advice. And like for everybody listening, I mean, I'm certainly convinced it's definitely an underutilized tactic. I mean, if people are, I think, worried about, maybe getting shutting down, I mean, it's still ripe for the taking now. If that happens, that happens. But I mean, it seems like it's still, a great opportunity for the time being. If things change, then things change. I mean, it's kind of like everything else, your current retail relationships, the other avenues that you're in. When things change and it's no longer working, then you pivot to something else. But yeah, I've heard from others similar success stories. I appreciate the clarity you've kind of brought to. I think it's kind of like some people look at TikTok as kind of like the Wild West. It doesn't seem like there's like a ton of clarity or consistency there, but I think it's just to understand what it is, like in and of itself, is the most important thing. Like, because it is kind of chaotic and a little, like I said before, it's like the campaigns are sprinted. Like your traction on that platform, whether you're just posting videos, you're not even selling anything, your traction is going to be a sprint, and then it might happen again in another few months. It's crazy. You see people have like literally 10 million views on a video. They still only have like 1,000 followers, and the rest of their videos have like 100 views. So yeah, it's so interesting. But yeah, I really appreciate your insights and your time today, Zain. And yeah, safe travels and everything. And I wish you nothing but good luck and continued success.
Appreciate it, man. I enjoyed the conversations. Thank you for having me on. Absolutely. Definitely can look forward to seeing this air and seeing more people kind of get on the TikTok Shop train. Hopefully it'll be helpful for some brand and their P&Ls, their growth this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely something I plan to bring up in like future conversations I have with other entrepreneurs, because I don't think it's been given real justice. I think people are just a little kind of like wary or scared, or just like it's kind of like the unknown for a lot of people. So I really appreciate your insight. Thank you so much, Zain. I appreciate it.
Definitely. Have a good one, man.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks, everybody.